Hi, I'm Adam Talib, and this is the first of a series of videos I hope to make to help people read classical Arabic poetry. I'm not assuming any prior knowledge. Of course, it's helpful if you know Arabic, but I'm not assuming that you know anything about how classical Arabic poetry works. I hope that you're just interested in the subject. So I'm going to start in this video from the very basics. Really just like how does a line of Arabic poetry get built? So for those of you who know something about classical Arabic poetry, you might want to skip this video. I hope the videos in future will be more interesting for you. But this video is really for absolute beginners, people who are, just getting to grips with classical Arabic poetry. We're going to start in this video with the very basics of meter. And I'm going to try to go slowly and give plenty of examples, but I don't want the videos to be too long. And I'm also going to make this slideshow available for download, so you'll see a link to my website. So let's get started. So like I said, this is lesson 1. We're going to begin with meter. I'm going to give you a couple of future videos when we get into more complicated ideas about meter, but in this video, I'm starting from scratch with classical Arabic meter, which is also known as Khalilian meter, because the person who systematized it is called Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad. So what do you need to know? Well, there are 2 types of syllables in Arabic. Now, for those of you who know something about classical Arabic meter, one, you shouldn't be watching this video. I'm obviously simplifying to a certain extent, but there are 2 types of syllables in classical Arabic meter, and they're based on length. So the first step is trying to understand what these 2 syllables are and being able to distinguish them. The first syllable type is what we can call the short syllable. You can think about it as being a harf and a haraka. And I'm giving you some examples of that here, of these short syllables. So you'll see, for example, they're just a single letter, a harf, and a short vowel, a haraka. So things like fu, fa, fi, qu, qa, qi, wa, na, ya. And then you have the huruf that you have in grammar, the huruf that help us. So for example, sa, like the future marker, or you have, for example, the prepositions bi, li, ka. So all of these are examples of the short syllable in Arabic. This is the easiest one to learn because, as I said, short is just harf and haraka. Okay, now I'm going to get you to think about the long syllable. The long syllable is also intuitive, but there are 2 types of long syllable. So I'm giving you type 1 now. The first type of long syllable is essentially just a longer version of the version we just saw. So it's a longer version of the short syllable. So the long type is a consonant and a vowel. حروف و حرف علة يعني. So you have fu, fa, you have the preposition fi. You also have prepositions that you use like li and bi, or words you use like ma, ya, kay, la, law, ha, and dhu. These are all pretty typical words in classical Arabic that you'll be familiar with. Even fu, fa, fi, which sounds silly, is actually a word, right? I mean, meaning mouth or whatever. So you'll see that this type of syllable is pretty easy to distinguish from the first type of syllable. So, for example, the first type of syllable, the short syllable, you have fa. Here you have fa. Where you had fu, here you have fu. So you can even just hear the length of the syllable. And that's it. That's all you really need to know. You've got short syllables and long syllables. Where it gets complicated is there's a second type of long syllable which takes a little bit of effort to understand. That's what we're going to look at now. The second type of long syllable is harf plus haraka plus another harf, closing the syllable. So these are kinds of closed syllables. And this is the second type of long syllable. It should have the same length as the other type of long syllable, but it will sound different to you in your ear. So for example, the word bel, which is made up of ba, fatha, and lam, is a long syllable. Bel. The preposition min, the question word man, the other question word kem. These are all examples of type 2 long syllables. Harf and a haraka and another harf. Bel, min, men, kem, in, hum, meh, which is a word you find sometimes in classical Arabic poetry meaning gently, or the imperative verb qul. And then you have obviously the question word hal. So these are all examples of harf plus haraka plus another harf. And those of you who are quick with your grammar will know that there's a sukoon closing off the syllable there. I haven't put that in because I don't want to confuse people, but that's obviously there as well. So this is the second type of long syllable. And please pay attention to the definite article. So for example, the definite article is a form of the definite article will create a form of long syllable. So you have al, or with something that comes before it, like well or fel, then you're also getting a long syllable. We need to stop thinking about the alif and alif lam as being a separate letter. It really isn't. It's just there for orthographic purposes, for spelling purposes. Okay, so I know that went quickly, but you can definitely cycle back through what we just said. You know now what the types of short and long syllables are in Arabic. I've given you some examples, right? So you have fa, fi. These are short syllables, whereas fa and fi are long syllables. And these closed long syllables like bel, min, men, kem are another type of long syllable. So all you need to know now is how these types of syllables are combined. They're just two types, and you just need to practice in recognizing them. So I'm going to try and show you some examples. You can have two short syllables back to back. So that is, for example, bika. Bika is two short syllables back to back, or laka, or huwa. And also the word ana. Ana is actually two short syllables, usually, in poetry. And you can just hear it if you say ana. That's different from a short plus a long, right? So a short plus a long would be something like ila, or fama, or kama, or ala, or idha. So you can, I know I'm exaggerating a bit because I want you to be able to hear the difference between laka and kama. But it's important to understand that in Arabic, you're always going to have syllables combining. We really have very, very few one syllable, or, we have some two syllable words. That's not true. But one syllable words are very rare in Arabic. So you're almost always going to see these syllables in combination, whether that's short plus long. You can also have long plus short. So some examples of long plus short would be minka, inda, anta, nahnu, tamma, thumma, inna. And then I gave you illa, but that's not correct. We can also have long plus long, of course. That gives us fima, antum, baytan, kalban, هذا, زدني, اكتب, إلا. Okay, so these are just a few words at random. They're quite common words, but now you can kind of see how the short and long varieties of syllables that we learned can be combined. I'm going to break it down for you a bit more so you can see how that works. So let's talk about tashdid. This is where we double the consonant. And I gave you a couple of examples of that because it's quite common in Arabic. So for example, if we think about thumma, thumma is made up of two syllables. The first syllable is thum, which is long, and it's followed by ma, which is short. In combination, thumma, two syllables. There's another example like alayya, which is three syllables. The first syllable being a, then lay, then ya. Alayya. Illa is two long syllables. The first is il plus la. Same thing, inna is long and short. Inna. And hatta is long plus long. Hatta. Also, please remember that we're talking about classical Arabic here, so you always have to take into account case marking. Case marking gives you an extra syllable at the end of a word, even though it might not always be written, so you need to take that into account. That's, of course, the case as well with te marbuta. So, for example, the word is qasidatun. Qasidatun. So, what its pausal form is qasida, 3 syllables, but in classical Arabic, when we have case marking, we read it as qasidatun, which gives us 4 syllables, or al-qasidatu, which again is 5 syllable because you added the definite article. And as I said before, the definite article, you need to be aware that the definite article changes depending on where it is in the phrase. So you might say al-baytu, but you would always say fil bayti. So you have to take that into account. We're never saying fi al-bayti. It's always fil bayti. Here's some more examples, and here I've given you a very famous line of poetry which you may or may not have heard before. And I'm not telling you what the length of these syllables are because I want to give you an opportunity to practice based on what you've just looked at. So take a moment, and I would actually pause the video at this point and try to answer the questions. So the question really is, tell me the length of these syllables. I've broken the lines down. The line is, or the half line is, قف نبكي من ذكرى حبيب ومنزلي. And I've just, for the sake of it, I've said menzil in here. We don't have to talk about why that is. It's just a detail. So just pause the video for a second and try and answer these questions. Tell me, are these syllables short or long? Okay, well, I hope you paused the video and now you've got all your answers. And I can tell you now the answers. So the first is qih, fa, that is short, long. Nebki, long, short. Min, long. Dhikra, long, long. Habibin, short, long, long. Menzilin, long, short, long. I hope everyone got that 100%. If not, you can stop again and go back over it. So meter essentially in Arabic is not that complicated. It's just the way that short and long syllables are combined in a specific pattern. That's all it is. A meter is just a specific combination of short and long syllables, and there's a variety of different patterns. In Arabic, they have names, and I'm going to be talking to you about them in subsequent videos, so you may have come across words like al-tawil, al-basit, al-kamil, and I'm going to explain all that to you in future videos. But for the moment, I just want you to realize that the meter is just the way we combine short and long syllables, or the way the poets have combined short and long syllables. So I'm going to give you now a final exercise, and that's called scansion. So scansion is when we break down a line of poetry into its meter. That's all it is. So now you are equipped because you know that there are 2 types of syllables, the short and the long. And I've shown you actually that the long takes 2 different forms. And we're going to now go through a half line of Arabic poetry, very simple, using words that you already know, in order to show how we actually do scansion, how we apply our knowledge of syllable length to a line to understand its meter. So this is a very basic example here. I'll just read it for you. فَقُلْتُ لَهُمْ أَهْلًا وَسَهْلًا وَمَرْحَبًا. And I think sometimes it helps if you have the full voweling. So I've given you the full voweling here. فَقُلْتُ لَهُمْ أَهْلًا وَسَهْلًا وَمَرْحَبًا. And believe it or not, this, which seems just like something somebody could say if they were being very, very welcoming or describing being very welcoming, is actually in a classical Arabic meter. And it's, I'm not sure if it's a real line of poetry or not, but we use it for teaching purposes. So the first step here is to break it down into syllables. How many syllables are in the line فَقُلْتُ لَهُمْ أَهْلًا وَسَهْلًا وَمَرْحَبًا? Again, you might want to pause the video and just have a think for yourself. Once you've had a chance to do that, I'm going to show you. If we break it down, we get 14 syllables. And there they are. فَقُلْتُ لَهُمْ أَهْلًا وَسَهْلًا وَمَرْحَبًا. And I hope that's pretty clear how I got to the number 14. But of course, unlike English, Arabic doesn't care about the total number of syllables. I mean, the total number of syllables is important, but it's not how we identify our meters in Arabic. It's not like pentameter or hexameter, which are these kinds of English and, let's say, Greek-derived and Latin-derived English ways of thinking about the length of, the meter. We have a different thing. We're looking at the way that the short and long are alternated over the line. And that's what I want you to do now. So we're going to take our syllables, and we're going to do what's called al-kitab al-arudiyya. Arud is the Arabic word for prosody. Again, I'm going to talk to you about that in future videos. Al-kitab al-arudiyya is a technique that we use, especially when we're starting out reading classical Arabic poetry, to get into the habit of how to do scansion. Scansion is what I'm teaching you to do at the moment, and al-kitab al-arudiyya is an important kind of intermediate step between having a line of poetry and being able to break it down into its meter. So what I'd like you to do now is to follow this example of al-kitab al-arudiyya. The way we do that is we break down the line into its syllables. So you'll see what I've done here. I've written fa, qul, tu, and then la, hum, and then you'll see that I've written len with lam noon, or lam fatha noon, instead of how it's written normally in Arabic would be lam and then tanween fatha, but here you've got lam noon, because the whole point is to understand how the syllable is working, and this is based on sound rather than spelling. So I'm trying to get you to write the Arabic the way it sounds rather than the way it's written, if that makes sense. And you'll see the same thing here, wa sahlan wa marhaba, or it could be marhaban. It doesn't make a difference in terms of the length. So that is what we call kitaba arudiyya. So as you're going through these videos, especially in the beginning, you're learning how to do scansion in Arabic. This is an important step. You should really get in the habit of rewriting a line of Arabic poetry into this kitaba arudiyya, and that'll help you break it down into the syllables, and the syllables will give you the pattern. So now that you've got this pattern, what do we do with this? Well, this is called taqti' al-bayt, or scansion. You'll see that I've broken it down. So fa, qul, tu. That gives us a short, and then a long, and then a short. Now you see these symbols I've used here? They look like a fatha and a sukoon. This is the kind of symbol we use to do, instead of writing short and long or short over the syllable, we use this symbol to help us understand. It's like just like a notation system. It's just a symbolic notation system for the length of syllables. So short syllables, they just get a haraka, like a fatha. Long get a haraka and a sukoon, and then the other one, and the short here you see it's the same thing. So this is just a symbolic system that will help you understand, will help you kind of figure out the pattern. You could also write short, long, short if you wanted to, or you could write SLS, which my dear supervisor likes to do, but the most common way of doing it is this way that I've done it with slashes and kind of like circles or whatever. So that's the first word, فَقُلْتُ, short, long, short. لَهُمْ أَهْلًا, short, long, long, long. Short, long, long, long. لَهُمْ أَهْلًا. And then وَسَهْلًا, so that's short, long, long. وَمَرْحَبًا, short, long, short, long. And I hope this is something that you would be able to do. Again, it's one of those things where if you're having trouble following, please just pause the video and go back over it. So from this top, that is فَقُلْتُ, short, long, short. لَهُمْ أَهْلًا, short, long, long, long. وَسَهْلًا, short, long, long. وَمَرْحَبًا, short, long, short, long. And that's the line. So it's فَقُلْتُ لَهُمْ أَهْلًا وَسَهْلًا وَمَرْحَبًا. And you'll see I've written it out for you on the top. If you follow the notation, you get short, long, short. Short, long, short, short, long, 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 short, long, long, short, long, short, long. And for those of you who know something about classical Arabic poetry, although of course I'm not expecting you to, this is actually in tawil meter. This is half a line of tawil meter. And I'm going to explain to you in the next video what tawil meter is. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been instructional. The goal here obviously is to get you reading classical Arabic poetry and appreciating it. In a dream scenario, we would all be in the same place in a classroom together, and I could teach you that way. But I hope this helps get this knowledge out. Anyway, I hope it's very helpful. And if there are specific topics or specific poems you want to know more about, please just email me. I'll put a link at the bottom of the video. Bye.